Namaskar. I'm Ashok Vyas, and today I have the pleasure of welcoming someone who first came to USA as a student, and then he taught at Harvard also, where he had completed his PhD in economics, and this economist's heart was in India. So after teaching for a little while at Harvard, he went back to India, taught at IIT Delhi, and then the thinker as well as the activist in him brought him to the field of active politics. And he has been very successful there, served the nation 5 times as member of parliament, and then he also served India as cabinet minister in central government's ministry, law minister, as well as commerce minister. He has been very active with various issues that have been of particular interest for Hindu community, whether they are in India or based abroad. Be it the case of Ram Setu, or be it 2G, 3G, etc. scandals, as well as various areas that needed special attention because of some provisions in constitution that seem to be working against the interest of Hindus. Not continuing to talk about him, welcoming him, as well as thanking him for joining the community here in New York for a very special session where he addressed. And now it's my proud privilege to welcome you, Subrahmanian Swamy. Namaskar.
Namaste.
Modi communal riots, Muzaffarnagar.
Yes.
Many politicians have compared Muzaffarnagar to what happened in Gujarat. And as someone sitting away from India, I was sometimes shocked that rather than being sensitive to the plight of affected people from either side, the statements were very kind of dry of human feelings. And they were more like calculating as to how it is going to affect elections or what is the motive behind it. What has happened to our political statements or the kind of political expressions that we have? It is, rather than uniting, it is more working towards dividing people.
Well, I think this is the issue on which you need consensus. You see, what happened, the real division started when Prime Minister and Ms. Sonia Gandhi went to Muzaffarnagar. Now, instead of giving solace to all the people, they only went to Muslim areas. And even though there was a demand from the Hindu areas that please come and also ask about our welfare, they refused to do so. So there is a definite feeling amongst the Hindus also that the Congress is trying to only curry favor with the minorities because the minorities will vote as a bloc. Hindus don't vote as a bloc, so they don't care. And in that process, you find all kinds of things. Earlier on, the Prime Minister said that the first charge on our national resources is for the Muslim community. Today, Mr. Shinde says that please see that innocent Muslims are not arrested, and if they are arrested, they should be let off quickly. Anybody innocent arrested should not be arrested, you see. And anyone innocent who has been arrested must be let off quickly. Why should he say only for Muslims? So this is a game which the Congress is playing, and we can't really talk about peace and coming together because somebody has to articulate the voice of the Hindus, and they have been picked upon, and therefore they need someone to express the voice. I will be happy to sit down with Congress and saying, you stop your Muslim appeasement, and we will see that we don't allow anyone to communalize the situation.
Why it happened, to how it is going to affect the long-term relationship between the two communities in that region?
See, it's all very connected with a number of things. In the case of Muzaffarnagar, what happened is that some Muslim boys started teasing a Hindu girl, rather vulgarly, whenever she was going to school. She was a 16-year-old girl, and they were making very laissez-faire and lewd comments with her. So she complained to her father and brothers, and they said, okay, tomorrow when you go to school, we will go with you. So when they went, these people again came, and so these boys, the father said to his daughter, you go back home, I will deal with this so that this doesn't happen again. Now, then of course there was a lot of abuse, of each other, and then they dispersed. But that evening, the Muslim boys turned up where the girls a girl and her parents and her brothers were living, and dragged out those two boys and chopped their heads. And that's what annoyed them. We say, and this is a community, the Jats are a community who have been always very martial. They're a good part of the army. Their own leader, Raja Surajmal, he, in a similar situation, he had in fact completely toppled every Mughal and Muslim rulers around Delhi. And they had tradition. So that's where the thing went out of control. And then you see, I had Azam Khan coming and telling the police that when the Muslims attack, don't come in the way. And then the chief minister didn't come at all. He didn't turn up. Perhaps because of inexperience, he didn't know, or maybe he was afraid, I don't know. But he didn't turn up, and all kinds of rumors started flying. And in the meantime, the Congress came and only went to Muslim all areas. So this has created a bad thing. I think, you see, we need to understand that after creating Pakistan, Hindus and Muslims must regard themselves as part of one community. We created Pakistan so that the Muslims who don't feel any empathy with Hindus, they must get a separate country. So we cut our own country and created Pakistan for them. Now the remaining Muslims and Hindus must live as one family. And there are some issues on which Muslims can create an environment. For example, in Saudi Arabia, and it has been now well established, they don't regard a masjid as a religious place. And therefore they demolish masjids to build roads, buildings and things like that. Even the masjid in which their Prophet Muhammad used to read namaz, even that it was called the Bilal Masjid. Even that the Saudi Arabian government demolished because they wanted to build a palace, a guest house for the sheikhs. So, in other words, the Islamic law does not regard masjid as a religious place. It regards a place where you read namaz, where you collect together and read namaz, and it can be built anywhere. And namaz can also be read anywhere. So we think that the Muslims we need not go back too much into history, but certainly three places where it is clear that the temple was demolished and the masjid was built: Vrindavan, Ayodhya, and Kashi Vishwanath. These three places, if the Muslims took the liberal step in saying, listen, ours is only a masjid, it's a facilitation center for namaz, we will agree to have it built in another place and we will vacate this. If they can do that, that will create a huge Muslim-Hindu brotherhood concept. If the Muslims were to agree what is the truth, what the DNA now says, that all Muslims have the same DNA as Hindus, therefore the Muslims are also descendants of Hindus. If they can accept that, then I think we will feel like one family. So there are many things that need to be done. For that, we need a government which doesn't play the minority card all the time.
What you just said, you have been saying it consistently that if they accept that they are Hindus, how does that matter in the ultimate analysis?
Because I don't want Hindus to identify Muslims with Gori's descendants and all these invaders who came. You see, Gori, Ghazni, they've done so much brutality. You see, Ahmad Shah, Abdali. If they accept what is the truth, if it was not true, I would say that I will never insist on it. But it is true. It has been tested by DNA, and it's very clear. Some of them even still have their old names like Chowdhuris and Ranas and so on. You can see them in Muzaffarnagar, the Muslims having common names with the Hindus. If they were to say that, listen, we don't identify us with all this brutality and invasions that took place. We are also from the same, for certain difficulties, we converted. And we are children of Hindu converted to Islam. That will create a family atmosphere. We'll all then be entitled to be called ourselves as Hindustani.
Looking at the common ground, there's something that unifies us. So each one, as they say, has the same red blood flowing in you, and then you are also breathing. And so there are many...
It's not so simple. there is a problem. We Hindus believe that all religions lead to God. But Islam doesn't believe that. Christianity doesn't believe that. They say ours is the only religion. So Islam has got a concept of what is called as kafir. And they have, very severe punishments meant for those who are not believers. So in Saudi Arabia, for example, you cannot celebrate Diwali, you cannot build a temple, you cannot even do Satyanarayan Puja inside your house. But we Hindus are not like that. You can build a temple, you can build a mosque, you can do celebrate the Eid, you can dress like Arabs if you want. We don't object to all that. So I think, just that simple that we have the same blood and all, then there'll be no world war anywhere. How many wars have been fought? We are all the same blood, but still, the same color of the blood, but, world wars have taken place. We have to be practical and see what is the emotional part that will bring us together. And I tell you, the only emotional part is if we Hindus know that the Muslims are also from the same ancestry as us, and that we, due to certain unfortunate events of the history, we have been separated, but we don't identify them with those who came and looted and raped and butchered our country.
So, Swami, there are some questions which are very related to the way we look at things. And if I may take the liberty of not suggesting, but this is my observation.
Yeah.
You're talking about DNA and if they accept, and then the fellow feeling.
Yes.
But even Hindus are not united. I mean,
I agree.
you know that you
I
are a
agree.
Hindu and you are a Hindu, but there is no unity.
I agree.
And that's why
I
people
agree.
are trying to bring them together.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if they start accepting that, yes, our DNA was this, but we are not going to
You see,
respect,
in fact...
but even Hindus are not united. I mean,
I agree.
You know that you
I
are
agree.
a Hindu and you are a Hindu, but there is no unity.
I agree.
And that's why
I agree.
people are trying to bring them together.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if they start accepting that, yes, our DNA was this, but we are not going to...
You see, in fact, the DNA of a Brahmin and a scheduled caste is the same. That's also been now established. In fact, all Indians, North Indians, South Indians, East Indians, West Indians, have the same DNA. We are one people. All this British theory of Aryans division is bogus. It's, the British contrived one to divide us. Arya never meant a race. It meant somebody decent, cultured, civilized. And Dravida meant South India. That's the Sanskrit origin word which Shankaracharya created. We have got all kinds of things fed into our mind. We are one. Varna was never birth-based. A Brahmin is not necessarily one who is born in the house of a Brahmin. He has to be pursuing education. He must be sacrificial. He must not have property, land. He must not pick up a weapon. Then he qualifies to be a Brahmin. And if of any other caste also, born in any other family like Vishwamitra, was born in a Kshatriya family, but he became a Maharishi. He became a Rishi of Rishis. And same with Valmiki. Valmiki was born in a Dalit family house. And he became Maharishi and wrote the Ramayana. Vedvyasa was, his mother was a fisherwoman. And yet he became Maharishi and then he wrote the Mahabharata. So we have never, I think, in fact, if a Brahmin breaks a law, we have finished him. For example, Ravan. Ravan was a Brahmin. For a long time, Karnanidhi in Tamil Nadu didn't know this. And he was constantly attacking Ramchandraji and praising Ravan. But Ravan was a Brahmin who committed a crime of kidnapping Sita. So he was killed not by another Brahmin, he was killed by a Kshatriya. And all Brahmins support Rama. They pray to Rama, they remind him as a divinity. So I agree with you. And I'm telling you that if the Hindus unite, then, it is the Hindus who today decide that there should be secularism. It's not, Muslims don't have secularism anywhere where they are in majority. Take any country where Muslims are in majority. They are no secularism. They call themselves an Islamic state. And there the minorities have a very hard time.
Even though I may not like the things that are happening, which speaks in favor of the other idea which you just propounded of the reference of kafir. And I sincerely believe there are more Muslims who probably would not subscribe to this theory to the extreme. But what we have recently witnessed, be it the mall in Kenya or innocent
Yeah.
students killed in Nigeria
Yes.
or suicide bombers in Pakistan.
Yes, yes, yes.
And again, there were some intruders from Pakistani side in India.
Yes.
Went up to Jammu and killed many
So
police personnel.
beheaded our
So,
soldiers.
my question on theological level or on intellectual level first, what is it that can be done so that these minority among Muslims who look at the extreme view of the
Yes.
teachings of
Yes.
Quran, or they
Yes.
feel
Yes.
that killing all non-Muslims is the way to go, how can they become aware about the significance of coexistence? Is there anything that can be done?
Yes,
And
yes,
anything
yes.
that Muslim community which is not subscribing to these ideas is currently pursuing actively that you are aware of?
Well, see, there are ways of doing this. I myself had gone to Srinagar on the 22nd of May this year to address a public meeting in Lal Chowk. Not after Indira Gandhi, any Hindu has addressed a public meeting in Lal Chowk. I addressed it as Janata Party president, and there was a big hall in which maybe 3,000 Muslims of the valley had attended. And what they told me was this, that we subscribe to everything you say, but we are being told by the terrorists that the Hindus will ultimately give up Kashmir. They did it with Pakistan, they will do it now. They have, Hindus are kept quiet when we have when the militants draw out 500,000 Kashmiri Pandits out of it. And then there's the other side also, that in Gujarat, for all they have said, every 3 months there used to be a major riot in Gujarat since 1963. But after Modi coming, there has not been a single riot for the last 12 years. Now, how do you explain that? I think the problem is not with Muslim. The problem is with the Hindu. He's a confused mind, you see. We get divided on caste basis, language basis, all kinds of things. So I think if you want to remove these differences, you must have a strong Hindu leadership who can tell the Muslim community that if there's ever a riot, we will be standing in the middle. We will not allow it. This is what Modi has done. He said, no, I will not tolerate any riots. And therefore there will be no riots. If the Hindu community knows there's a strong leader who's a Hindu leader, and he says no riots, then they will obey. But if he thinks that, oh, this man is a chapaloose, you see, he's a sycophant to the Muslim community, they will not listen. That's why in Muzaffarnagar, the Jats felt that they have to take the law into their own hands. So the answer to your question is a united Hindu community, and not maybe all 80%, but even half of that, 40%, it's a big number. 40% can get you elected with an absolute majority in parliament. So the answer is that Hindus must first demonstrate unity. And then the leadership must be strong, that no one can take law into their own hands. If you take law into your hands, we will punish you. We don't care if you are a Hindu. But if you take law into your own hands, we will punish you. And deliver that confidence to the Muslim community that any time there's an unfairness to you, we Hindu leadership will stand up to support you. Then I think these things won't happen.
Swami, interestingly, recently there have been some intellectuals,
Yes.
well-decorated intellectuals, and
Yes.
probably they come from Hindu background also,
Yeah.
who has come up with these kind of statements that if Narendra Modi becomes Prime Minister, I'm not going to live in India.
Well, we have 1 billion plus people. Somebody wants to leave is welcome. Ours is a free country. Article 19 guarantees freedom of travel. So I want to go. I'd like to see you where you are better treated than in India.
What you said is, of course, an obvious way of responding.
Yeah.
But why he comes up with these kind of ideas?
I think, you see, I'll tell you, there's a problem. Jawaharlal Nehru created a new class of secular Indians, as it's called. Now, what does this secularism mean? I mean, here is a religion which says that all religions lead to God. Now, who can be more secular than that? So what is it, the meaning of secular? The one who favors Muslims at the expense of Hindu, he is secular. That's how it is slowly becoming like this. And that's why a man like Manmohan Singh says that the first charge on resources is for Muslims. So we believe secular means non-discrimination on the basis of religion. We will not discriminate against the engineer because he's a Muslim. And it requires a strong Hindu leadership to ensure that a Muslim engineer who is qualified is not discriminated because he's a Hindu, because he's a Muslim. So this new class of intellectuals who have grown up with I call them as the Nehruvian secularists, they are feeling uncomfortable because they don't want to own up their Hindu identity. And therefore they feel that Modi comes and the whole country will rise as one to accept what is always true, that is the mainstream culture of India is Hindu.
Since we are talking in New York and we have the pleasure of the presence of Indian Prime Minister as well as Pakistan's head of state here, and there have been some stories going around in the media about informally what Pakistani Prime Minister mentioned, Pakistani President
Dehati
Aurat. And then there have been contradictions, or let's say people said no, he actually didn't say that. Irrespective of that, in general, the kind of policy which the government should be pursuing with respect to our relationship with Pakistan, the way it is proceeding, how do you look at it?
Well, there are two things. First of all, on that matter of the Dehati Aurat, he told an Indian correspondent, and there was an eyewitness there, or a ear witness. His name is Hamid Mir. He's a highly respected journalist in Pakistan. He used to run some Geo TV. I don't know whether he still does. But he's not been afraid of the Pakistani administration either. He's been critical of Musharraf and so on. He's suffered attacks. So he told a Pakistani TV that when it was pointed out, when the TV anchor pointed out to Hamid Mir that one hand you want to talk to Manmohan Singh, the other hand he is complaining about Nawaz Sharif to Obama. So when that was pointed out by Barkadat to the Pakistan Prime Minister, he immediately said, oh, he's like a Dehati Aurat running to Obama for, chugli karne ke liye. So that's what he said. Now, I'm 100% certain he said it because that's the language he normally speaks. But I am saying, what is the problem between India and Pakistan today? The problem is the progressive Talibanization of Pakistan. This present Prime Minister has been elected with the concurrence and his compliance with Taliban. Taliban elements in the ISI, Taliban elements in the army, and of course the Taliban amongst the mullahs also. So it is only a matter of time. There are parts of Pakistan today women cannot go to school. And the civil society of Pakistan, who know me, many of them know me, they complain that this is all happening, and they are even jokingly saying, Swamy, keep some place for us. We may have to come to India to live a civilized existence. So I think we are seeing this trend, and then Obama is planning to leave Afghanistan in 2014, which means the Taliban will take it over. I don't think the president of Afghanistan will be able to stand on his own. So if Taliban takes over Pakistan and Afghanistan, then we are going to have a problem. And they don't want peace with India. They in fact think that India is an incomplete chapter of Pakistan, of Islamic history of India. And they think, how is it that every other country like Iran and Iraq and Egypt, we made them 100% Muslim, but this country we have not been even able to make 15% Muslim. So they consider this as so that mentality is there, and I don't think today Nawaz Sharif can deliver anything. He is not in control. There are 3-4 governments in Pakistan. One is Nawaz Sharif's, the other is the army's government, and then there is the mullah government, and then there's the Taliban government. So these governments, they run their own writs, and I don't think it's possible to have good relations with Pakistan on the basis of talks.
And especially since now you are a BJP person,
Yes.
how do you see NRIs are resonating with the message of Modi, and what role do you envisage?
Modi is wildly popular in NRIs. I mean, look at even his digital presentations, what a euphoria there is. No, he has got the imagination of the tech-savvy, highly paid young professionals of NRI origins in the United States. Now, many of them talk to me saying that they want to come and do something in the election. So I tell them, see, you going and giving speeches has no value, because the system is such that you will not be able to speak in the idiom of the ordinary people. And the party workers also who have to arrange your program, they will be not enthusiastic. For their own leaders, they'll be enthusiastic. But somebody's coming from America, iske liye bhi kar do, they'll not do it. What the NRIs can do is 2-3 things. One is, we need to know how to solve major problems of India. Number one, to get a power system which delivers electricity to 100% of Indians, to 100% of Indian households, and it has a stable voltage, and that kind of power systems. How it can be designed, who we should bring in, whether it should be turnkey, whether it should be a joint venture. These things are something with our NRIs got brains in this country. They work in very important corporations. They can produce a 4-page paper, and we have a committee headed now by Mr. Nitin Gadkari on vision document. We need it. Second, we have this problem, 85% of our crude oil is coming from abroad, and it's a huge drain on our resources. So can we find some substitutes? And the answer is yes, there are shale oil substitutes, then there is hydrogen fuel cells. The Americans are not interested in hydrogen fuel cells because they got plenty of oil. They put them all in underground tanks. So the oil companies will not allow research to, but we can do it. We can, therefore, the technology of hydrogen fuel cells, how can we make it commercially viable in India? This also the NRIs can help us. The third thing is, somebody wants the excitement of fighting elections. Well, then I would suggest that you go and settle down, and where you are, there will be 1, 2, maybe 3 polling booth areas within your reach. Each polling booth has 1,000 votes, and get hold of the voter list, and then tick off, go to each house as given the addresses, given the voter list, and check whether the voter is actually there, or whether he is dead, whether he is migrated. Give a sanitized voter list to the BJP, and the BJP worker who is sitting in the polling booth, when some Ram Saran comes and says, I am a voter, our party worker will say, you can't be a voter, Ram Saran died 6 months ago. That way, you see, to get a free and fair voting. I think this is a role they can play.
You have mentioned some very important points, but I would again come back to you with the same question, and with some sort of a blueprint for NRIs who are not so closely aware about Indian setting, but they have some feeling that...
I'm telling you, the feeling is that we want to do something where winning elections, there's nothing much. I think we are going to win it hands down, the way the present trends are continuing. I think what we need is that once we come to power, we should be able to do, like for instance, when Narasimha Rao came to power, I had already done in the Chandrasekhar government, I prepared the blueprints. And that time, by the way, Manmohan Singh was my economic advisor. He was a bureaucrat. And Montek Singh was my commerce secretary. So we prepared the blueprints, and as soon as Narasimha Rao came, he asked me, can you give me the blueprints? I'm going to create a commission with cabinet rank, and you will be on WTO, you will be the chairman of that committee with cabinet rank, and you can always participate in our cabinet meetings. So those blueprints immediately he executed. So the same way you come to power, we want to do a few things. We want to link all the rivers, because there are rivers that flood and there are rivers which are deficit. We want a power system which gives you guaranteed power. We want a road system which is world class. And this will attract foreign direct investment. And which, China is able to do that. So these 5-6 things we need from NRIs because they are positioned here. And then, of course, to build a software network, particularly in the design area, where we have not gone in yet. Yet today we produce very good software, like blue-collar workers. But we need new research on design. Like, we need brand names like Microsoft. We should have an Indian who does what Microsoft has done. So those are the areas where NRIs can contribute.
Wonderful. My guest today is Subrahmanian Swamy, sharing his views on various subjects, in particular talking about the potential prime ministerial candidate Narendra Modi, as well as his Janata Party becoming a part of Bharatiya Janata Party. Lots of good wishes to you, sir, and thank you very much.